Ladies and gentlemen, you didn't ask for him, but here he is anyhow, Mr. Gary Kroger.
You know, once upon a time, you just went 3, 2, 1, and now you give an intro to my intro. I mean, I don't. It's not that I don't like it. I think I
think that's not an intro to an intro. That's the your intro.
My intro. So Ed Sullivan. So okay. So this is.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's like Ed McMahon goes, "Here's Johnny."
Okay. So here's Gary.
Here's Gary.
Thank you, Kenny. So nice of you. Thank you, audience and or listeners, viewers, whatever you are. This is the Gary and Kenny Show. I'm the Gary, and that's the Kenny that you've already heard from.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. What's going on, Kenny?
How's things out there in the
Well,
hinterlands?
since I last spoke to you, I had
It's not nice to call it the hinterlands, is it?
We don't like that.
No.
There's nothing
I apologize. I apologize to everybody out there.
Yeah. I had, since I spoke to you, the big physical with rubber gloves and Vaseline and every kind of.
I think colonoscopy? Is that the colonoscopy?
Well, no, I've had several colonoscopies. No, the big physical where you check all your blood and your reflexes, and I had an EKG,
yes,
stress test. Yes. They checked my blood for everything from glucose, which is way too high. My cholesterol's too high. I think they checked me for rabies. I mean, just everything.
I did that, and they just told me I was too high.
Okay. You know, Kenny, I exercise quite religiously, and I don't eat like a pig.
So when you say you exercise religiously, you do like
I pray when I'm there you go, I daven. Yes.
You daven and you're like that's yeah. Well, you got to do something more vigorous than that.
I work out regularly, and I'm not a pig eater, but I'm pre-diabetes, and so this was my wake-up call. No more piece of pie before bed.
Really? So it didn't come back good.
Sugar comes way down. I'm this close to diabetes.
Oh, you know, if you get diabetes, you could use that Ozempic drug.
Yeah, well, I'm all aware of. Yeah, and you know what? It costs $1,500 a month. And
no. Actually, I know people who have managed to somehow do it cheaper. So I think there are alternatives, but but that's a big thing that people who have actually real diabetes are not able to get the drug and have to pay an enormous amount of money because so many people are using it as a weight loss drug.
Right. Well, I'm not in terrible shape. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that
you look good to me. I give you a thumbs up, Bill of hell.
I stay relatively
forget all of these.
But anyway, it's the wake up call because I want to live a long time. You know, put another 30 years on the planet or something. And so I'm just cutting out salt and sugar.
Well, it's just it's interesting. I mean, you try to live a healthy life. You try to do all of the things. And yet you failed, Gary.
Yeah, well, aging is a beast that eats you alive.
It really is.
You can do all the things right, but I'm 67 years old, and I've got arthritis. It's hard. I do sit-ups, and it's hard to boast.
I'm older than you are, and I just feel great. Now,
okay, you're right. I'm losing.
No, I'm failing. But here's the thing, Gary. You went in for a physical. So they told you all the bad stuff that's going on.
Never get a physical.
On the other hand, have not gone into a physical, thereby avoiding.
In other words,
finding out that I really don't feel as good as I should.
Kenneth Seisler, ignorance is good health.
Well, there you have. Yeah, ignorance is good health. Yeah, so that's that. Speaking of health, last week we were talking about my toothbrush. I hope nobody missed that show because that was just riveting.
My wife thought it was the funniest thing she's ever heard.
Anyway, so yeah,
and she liked
anybody that doesn't know, very quickly, I got a new toothbrush and it's a modern toothbrush. And when I went and I opened the box, there was an instruction book, and you open up the instruction book, and the first thing it says is you must download the app. So now I'm downloading an app for my toothbrush, which I have done now.
Yeah,
okay,
sure, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Well, you understand. Now I'm connected. My toothbrush is using the same Wi-Fi in my house as my phone. Okay, I had to give my.
Does your toothbrush have music preferences?
I had to give my toothbrush permission to access that, and I have gotten back stuff. But what is happening, and it's really happening, is that when I bring my phone up near the toothbrush, a big thing comes up and it says, "Your toothbrush is trying to connect with your phone." Allow? Don't allow.
Oh, there will be consequences.
Every time I go there and go, your toothbrush is trying to connect. You want your toothbrush to connect?
It's like you're like Tinder for toothbrushes. Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, I let it connect a couple of whiles, and then you get videos. It shows you where you're not giving enough time to, and all of that stuff.
Right. So I'm not sure I'm there yet.
Yeah.
But I have a funny story for you really quickly, because we're talking about technology. So a friend of mine is a friend of mine is at a football game, and a player on a team was named Siri. His last name was Siri, and another running back was Gary. So it'd be Siri on the tackle of Gary, and every time my phone would ring, his phone would call me. And I mean, what the fuck does this guy want on a Friday night? Yeah. We had to shut his phone off. But that's what we have. And anytime you say anything close to ALEXA or I or EIS, you know who comes on.
Yeah. No, well, first of all, not first of all, but just I'll mention this. Unfortunately, we had another gun tragedy.
Yes.
But, and we're always trying to find out what the red flags are, Well, I'm just curious, if these people have Alexa or Siri, would Alexa or Siri be able to go, hey, wait a second, I'm hearing some conversation here. This kid's doing some shit, man. He's talking about this thing. Does that go?
I don't know. Maybe it does. I mean, he was on a list.
If I think of something, or my wife thinks of something, if I say shoes, I am bombarded by articles about shoes.
Well, exactly. When I say anything in the house, I start getting banner ads and things and that I never searched for. So it must be old whatever picking this up. Now, this kid was on sort of a watch list. He was a person of interest. But as my wife pointed out,
that was because, but not, okay, go ahead.
Well, because he got an AR-15 for Christmas.
Right.
But he also said things and posted things. But who knows? Maybe there is other elements. But as my wife said, yeah, but there's 150,000 people of interest, and you can't pursue them all. You can't look into them all.
This idea that it's a mental health thing and somehow we could recognize who the mental health people are going to do. It's not. Basically, it's the ability for people to kill a lot of people. If you're if you are mentally ill and you don't have access to a weapon, your chances are you're not going to shoot somebody.
Correct. And also we need to expand the concept of mental illness. It's not just crazy people with their tongue hanging out, quoting Shakespeare at Fifth Avenue. We create this mental illness. Now, we don't know what this guy's story is or the shooter of Trump or anything like that, but we create this with the availability of guns, the rhetoric.
Well, yeah, of course, but I think the idea that
mental unhealth, societal mental unhealth,
have to have better mental health, that will somehow solve it.
Yeah, that doesn't solve it. Taking guns away completely doesn't solve it. But for God's sake,
we
need some restriction. It reduces accidents and it reduces availability. Background checks must be comprehensive.
Every country that has restricted weapons doesn't have what we have. Evidence. It's proof. Every time they say it doesn't work, well, it does work, because there's countries all over the world that do have it, and it works.
Right. And everywhere you go, my wife and I were in Europe, and everybody, two things they talk about. How could you have ever elected Trump? And what is with Americans and guns? Don't you see what's so obvious to us? You have 300 million guns, and you only have 300 million people? What the fuck? Of course there are going to be people get mad in bars and they're carrying, they shoot. And this happens all over the place. It happened here in Waterloo 2 weeks ago. Somebody got mad and he started firing. All right.
That's why I don't give anybody the finger anymore. Remember back in the 60s, you could
when you could.
Yeah. You could just go, fuck you. No, fuck you. That was it. But now you say that, they'll just shoot you. Yeah. It's scary out there. That's why I don't go out. That's why I don't go outside, Gary.
I don't blame you.
And wait a second. I heard you got hosed this weekend, so to speak.
What'd I do?
You got charged $750 if some guy to plug in the hose?
Yeah, I got new kitchen appliances.
Oh,
and the
can't afford to send the kid to college, huh?
Well, now that he's not going to college, I had the money for a semester. It went into kitchen appliances. But so the dishwasher's $395. The installation was $760 just to unplug it, put the hose in, and take the old one away. $760.
Let me tell you something that I do. And my wife is amazing at it. She really is. I have to give her a lot of credit. When anybody tells me something about how much it's going to cost me, I usually retort, okay, but would you like to speak to my wife?
I should have done.
In which they go 20% off.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like? I'm going to do that. Okay, but would you like to speak to Kenny's wife? and see if
Yes.
I can get a discount.
She returns things. We just that toothbrush we got because she returned the other one that was 2 years old, and they took it back.
Yeah, the other one wasn't persistent enough, so
It's just
it was returned.
You know, the thing that they really should have taught me in school, and you as well, and I didn't know this, the return policy. The first thing you do, no matter what you make on a purchase, is what's the return?
What's the return policy? See, I don't trust any of that stuff though, because I get the insurance when I travel. If you're sick or whatever, it's not that simple. You can't just cancel even if you bought the flight insurance or the hotel insurance. You still have to have a note pinned to your chest from your doctor and
those kind of things.
Second opinion.
I'm talking about ordinary things that you would return.
Yeah.
I still get anxiety returning stuff because I always feel like I'm going to bring it back and they're going to go, "What's wrong with it?"
Yeah.
And I don't know. Well, there's got to be something wrong with it.
I took a weed whacker back.
I don't want it. Well, you bought it.
I bought a weed whacker at Lowe's and I took it back because it didn't work. And the lady at the register went, brr, brr, and it worked just fine.
See, I will say Home Depot is great, and not only
I don't like Home Depot because of the asshole that owns it.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's a Trumpy.
They're all like that. I don't know why all these people
because he cuts their taxes and he lets them not pay any to the same percentage that we pay.
You don't have a spine to say, yeah, but you're a liar. You don't have a spine to stand up. Anyhow, we can't go.
Yeah, let's not go down that road.
Even with Amazon now, I love Amazon because you just you don't have to box it up. You just say just bring it over to Whole Foods. And you just hand them I handed them an old pair of shoes I bought I don't know 6 months ago, and they still had mud on it. And they were just they took, and I'm like, hey, Amazon's amazing.
My wife doesn't. Every day we have 1 or 2 or even 3 packages from Amazon. My wife just sits there, and if she wants socks, if she wants curlers, I don't know what. There's a package every day.
Wife, it's Amazon. The world.
Yeah,
it is. I am down to buy everything, like eye drops. I bought eye drops on Amazon.
I need people, Kenny, and I don't buy anything that very little because I love to go to the store, especially a big old department store or Lowe's, and shop. I'll even go, as I did this morning, with no agenda. I just maybe I need
no agenda. You went in.
No agenda. I went into Lowe's today.
That's called loitering, Gary. That's loitering.
Yeah, but I go up and down the aisle going, you know what? I probably could use some cleanser. I probably could use, I bought some mums, some flowers, but I like just to see people and be out and get the exercise and fresh air.
I do too, sometimes. I went to Gelson's. I didn't have a great experience there, but that's besides the point. Let's introduce our friend, our guest tonight, Mr. Lee Kernis.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you guys.
So Lee's a manager, and I want to clear something up because I am asked this. I'm sure Lee has asked this. And in one simple sentence, Lee, we don't want to go a whole difference. Being a talent manager, what is the difference between being a talent manager and a talent agent?
5%.
Well, yeah, right. And it's not 5% anymore. But to be honest with you, there's not a lot of difference in these days. There isn't, because one of the manager's big duties is make sure his client is working. So you have to do whatever you can do, because the agents all have a multitude of clients, many clients, and they might be 1 or 3 people on a team. So you don't talk to them all the time.
One more question before we get to the fun stuff is, what percentage of talent out there would you say has both a manager and an agent? Is it if you have an agent, you got to have a manager, or a lot of people have agents and they don't have managers?
Right. I mean, that's a really good question. But, the top of my head, I would say if a client is making the money to afford both and the necessity to have both, it's probably 60-70%, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a friend of mine who's a manager says, when clients would complain about how much money they're spending, most businesses, their profit level is, on a restaurant business, they say the profit level is 8 to 12% tops. And let's just go further and say you have a business manager at 5% and a lawyer at 5%. So that adds up to 30%. Well, that's 70% profit. There's not a lot of businesses that you get that kind of coverage and get 70% profit.
Well, let's tell people. So over the course of your career, you have managed, well, Susie Essman, obviously, because you got Susie Essman.
And thank you for Susie.
Right.
Who was your
My first client was an MTV star named Ken Ober. I had Robert Schimmel for many years. I had Carlos Mencia, Illeana Douglas, the actress.
You had Sherry O'Terry from Saturday Night Live.
I had Sherry O'Terry. Thank you for reminding me. Hey, one of my first clients was Jeff Garlin.
Lee has this great story about Robert Evans, but before he tells the story, we should let people know exactly who Robert Evans was, because he was one of the titans of the business.
He did what movies?
Did what?
He was the head of Paramount Pictures. He was the chairman of Paramount Pictures, who then he put very big films in play that we saw: The Godfather, Love Story, Chinatown. And then he became a
Rosemary's Baby. I got to throw that in there.
Baby. And he was married to Ali MacGraw, right? Ali MacGraw.
Yes.
Isn't there a movie that they did on like Peacock or Paramount about his life? Oh, the Making of Found.
Right. But then he became a very large producer, and he was a legend in the business in many, many different ways. Yeah. And he had a lot of ups and downs, and a big character, and very old, kind of old school showbiz. Like you could have imagined him running a studio in the 40s, even though he was in the 70s.
Right. But one of the biggest names in the history of this town, certainly.
Right. Yeah.
So anyhow, somewhere along the line, you ended up meeting Robert Evans.
So one night I was remember the Mustache Cafe across from the Improv at Melrose? I'm with a friend of mine who's a criminal lawyer, and a younger woman who he knew who I didn't. And, you could tell, like, she knew people. She got around. And then her cell phone rings. She picks up the phone and she goes, yeah. Okay, great. Hey, do you mind if I bring 2 friends of mine? Great, terrific. Hangs up, and she looks at us and she says, do you want to go to Bob's house to watch a screening? I said, yeah, but who's Bob? She said, Bob Evans. Well, my heart just like stopped. I'm like, I'm going up to Woodland. That's the name of his house.
Right.
To Bob Evans' screening room.
Wow.
On like a Tuesday night. It's like a Tuesday, Wednesday night. So I left my car. Important fact. I left my car outside on Melrose, and we all drove in, I guess, my friend's car. We get up there. We walk through the door. The butler answers, like ragtag kind of butler. He answers. So he takes us out. You go through the living room or whatever exit. You go past the oval pool. Oval pool's lit up like from the 40s. And it's got little thin fountains and lights. And it looked beautiful. He had a separate screening room building. Okay, so now we get to the back. Everybody's there. So I'm saying about 10 or 12 people, and Evans.
Did you recognize any of the other people?
I did, and I'm going to tell you one of them right off the bat. Heidi Fleiss.
Oh, well, okay.
People sat down, and he announced the film. And I remember thinking immediately, okay, he didn't produce this. So, how much do you have to fawn? This wasn't his film. And I think he even said that. But anyway, he's wearing, great clothes, and he's got like the velvet slippers on. Now, the name of the film was Sweet November. Yeah. Sweet November had a young Keanu Reeves and a young Charlize Theron.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
She meets him. First, they don't really get along. Then they do. He falls for her. She gets cancer. And he's absolutely devastated. And in the end, she passes away. The film is over. And Evans, he's going to go around the room, the seats, and how do you feel about it? And I realize I'm the last one he's going to call on because of the way he's going. Okay. He goes up the first aisle, and people are just, very quickly, tell me quickly what you felt about it.
Right.
And they're guests at his house, so they feel compelled to say, "Oh, Bob, it was so great. It was so fantastic. It was so great." They're just kind of kissing his ass, but for no reason. So he gets to me, and I look at him, and I go, I got to be honest. This film was a fraud. Now, with that, I remember I said, this film was a fraud. You hear people go, I said, because this film was a mere copy, a third-rate copy of one of the greatest romantic films of all time, and that film is Love Story.
Yes, one of his.
Love Story is his film. With that, and I'm not going to get up and show you, his arms open like this. He's standing this whole time, and he walks down to me. I'm at the end towards the wall, and I stand up because I'm like, I'm not going to, I don't know what he's doing. And he hugs me, and in my ear, he goes, "That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me."
Wow.
Okay, now.
Good. That's why you're good in the business.
Good job.
Right. So I say this film is a fraud, and oh my God, this guy, who is he? Anyway, there's a woman there. She's Italian, and I know that the guy and the girl I came with, they'll stay till 3 a.m. They don't care. I have like a meeting in the morning. I got to get, I want to get going. It's now midnight on a Tuesday night. Say to the Italian woman, I heard her talking. I said, "Listen, are you going down towards Melrose? Because my car's there. If you could give me a lift, that would really be great." So she says, "Oh, of course I will. That's not a problem. So I say goodbye to Evans, and he says to me, "Listen, if you ever want to use my screening room for anything, you just call my secretary at Paramount. You tell her who you are. I know where you work. Bop. You can use it. You want to use it on a day's notice that we're not using it, it's yours." Like all of a sudden, he's my new best friend. He says, "Again, it's such a pleasure meeting you." I mean, he was a total gentleman. I see the Italian girl. We walk out. We get to her car, which I remember was a Mercedes convertible. And she goes, "And tell me again, where is your car?" I said, "The Mustache Cafe." And oh God, I misheard you. I'm going the other way.
Wow.
I said, well, what do you mean the other
Italians.
way? I said, "What do you mean the other way?" She says, "Well, I have to go to, I don't know, Pasadena or something." And I'm like, and she leaves. Now I'm standing on Evans' driveway.
Yes.
I'm standing on his driveway, and I'm like, now what do I do? 20 minutes goes by, 25 minutes. I see the butler in a bathrobe. He goes to, to a pantry off the kitchen, and I take pebbles, and I'm doing this, and he's looking around because it's dark. He can't see me. There is one light shining down on the driveway. I throw a pebble. I run to the light. And I'm like this, and he's looking at me like, "Who the hell are you?" He doesn't know who I am. He's like, "What the hell?" And then I run to the window like an idiot. And I was just in the house. I got locked out.
Right.
He lets me in. He gives me the weirdest look in the world. So I go back to the screening room. I get to the screening room, and I'm just standing there. And Evans turns to me, and he goes, "How you doing? Bob Evans."
Oh my goodness.
Like he met me for the first time.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Bob Evans.
Wow.
And so now I feel like a total schmuck. So I'm like, "Bob, what am I going to do? Explain it?" He's not going to get that. "Bob, I was here. I went outside with the Italian girl." Not only did I get locked out once, I got locked out twice. Because the next guy who said he was leaving, the next person who said he was leaving was Evans's accountant. I said, can you give me a ride to my car? He said, fine. We're out in the driveway. He gets a call in his car. Oh, no. Oh, shit.
No.
Oh, God.
I see where this is going.
He says, Lee, I'm so sorry. I got to go to Valley Hospital. My housekeeper, somebody was in a car accident. Yeah, I'm getting locked out again. 15, 20 minutes. I see a light on. It's the butler. Goes down. He's used to letting me back in.
Oh my God.
I go back into the second time. I go back into the screening room.
Right,
At this point, Evans doesn't know who I am, what I'm doing.
He reintroduced himself again?
Did he introduce himself?
Nope. Just it didn't ignore me, but didn't know I was gone. Maybe I went to the bathroom. You know, it's like for him, it's like a minute could, an hour could have been a minute. Anyway, finally we left, and that's the end of the story.
Wow. Lee, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. That's amazing. There you go. Well, you know what? We're running out of time. I've got to say goodbye to our audience, but I want to thank you, Lee, so much.
Thank you, Lee.
I would love to hear your stories, perhaps over a champagne spritzer sometime. We'll actually get together and hear, because I've got stories too, young man.
Oh, I know.
So does Kenny, but I've got some other tan guy stories. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching and or listening to the Gary and Kenny Show. Our special guest has been producer, manager Lee Kernis today with fantastic story. And we're on all the popular podcast platforms, yada, yada, yada. We got a YouTube channel.
Yada, 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 that. You don't yada, yada, yada.
Okay, Gary and Kenny Show on YouTube.
Yada, yada, yada.
Give us a thumbs up. Oh, look, Lee just bowed out there. And we're on streaming television on the Roku network, on the DB TV. I know all these things, but, I think. Yeah. So anyway, thanks, everybody. See you, Kenny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.